Much like Santu himself, Doctor Who didn't really deliver neither a particularly great entrance for Jodie Whittaker, nor the dramatic departure that writer series' supremo Steven Moffat wanted for himself and Peter Capaldi. As festive specials go, it wasn't that festive either. A subplot set in the World War I trenches made you long for your own TARDIS to go back to 2014, and the mindless escapism of the Doctor teaming up with Father Christmas against an army of brain-eating dream crabs. Much more seasonal somehow than Moffat's 63rd and final episode, Twice Upon a Time. After 7 years in charge, he seemed intent on bowing out with his grandiose statement about war and humanity and creating Doctor Who's Blackadder moment. They also had to content themselves with the Doctor, finally, stop resisting regeneration, allowing Peter Capaldi to make his big exit. Twice Upon a Time proved the program's problem with saying goodbye was if anything worse than ever when Pearl Mackie, as Bill Potts, Matt Lucas, Nardole, and even Jenna Coleman, Clara, all made unexpected returns. Even the first ever Doctor came back after 51 years, with the excellent David Bradley replacing the late William Hartnell You. How can it be you? Capaldi's Doctor, the 12th, gasped when he encountered Bradley's in Antarctica. If he was confused, you thought, what chance did us mere mortals have? I don't understand any of this, the original Time Lord complained later. Bill Potts was, not unreasonably, puzzled how two time machines could feasibly exist, the TARDIS from 1966 next to 2017's. It was hardly any wonder Mark Gatiss's character spent the whole episode feeling he was lagging behind. He played an army captain who found himself inexplicably transplanted from Ypres in 1914 and wandering into the two doctors meeting. Is this madness? The soldier trembled. Am I going mad? A feeling any regular viewers of Doctor Who knew too well. Twice Upon a Time, for example, was a depiction of what had happened between scene 21-22 of Hartnell's final show, The 10th Planet. The episode was screened in 1966, but set in 1986, 20 years in the future, in Antarctica. Steven Moffat's premise was that between scene 21 and 22 in 1966's show something more had happened, quite a lot more. Madness? Capaldi repeated to the captain. You're an officer from World War I at the South Pole being pursued through frozen time by an alien. Madness was never this good. The idea of the two Time Lords meeting was a contrived but comical conceit that gave him an opportunity of making wry observations about the way everything had changed during the last 50 years, from political correctness to the show itself, even using clips from 1966 to prove it. There's quite an Arctic storm blowing out there, we saw Hartnell say, in black and white. Pretty soon we shall be having visitors. Sure enough, the Cybermen arrived in a spaceship seemingly dangling on a string, their faces looking more like sinister sock puppets than the metallic terrors they evolved into. In the 21st scene, the first Doctor had ventured out into the snow as reluctant to accept his demise as the Doctor she who, for some reason, he then encountered. You may be a doctor, but I am the Doctor, bridled Bradley's Time Lord. I become you, he eventually understood, but struggling to grasp, not unreasonably, how the TARDIS had been revamped and now resembled a restaurant for the French, or why his supply of brandy had diminished. I may have snuck a glass in the last 1500 years, the 12th Doctor admitted. Characteristically, Capaldi's persona delighting in referring to his elder as Mary Berry or Corporal Jones. The first Doctor had more difficulty accepting his successor's fondness for the electric guitar, wearing sunglasses, indoors and his tedious sonic screwdriver. "For heaven's sake, will you put that ridiculous buzzing toy away?" he snapped, a bit rich considering that Moffat had over-relied on it for years. Eventually he moved on from the Doctor's sparring and started the story. Moffat has always had brilliant ideas, like the concept of the fighting in 1914 being frozen at the moment the captain was shot at by a German lying a few feet away, so the bullet never reached him. Instead, an eerie, shimmering, semi-invisible skeletal alien appeared to harvest his face and memory. "We are testimony," the shape later explained to the Doctors. "We are what awaits at the end of every life. As every living soul dies, we take what we need and return you to the moment of your death." A timeline error meant the captain had reappeared in the Antarctic rather than the trenches. Now his death must proceed as history demands. In exchange, the glass android offered the Doctor the chance to speak to someone special, Bill Potts, or rather, the Time Lord deduced, her duplicate. "I am .not.A good .Dalek," Rusty corrected him. "You are a good Dalek. It's a long story. Thanks to the Daleks database, the Doctor learned that the work of the Testimony Foundation was in fact benevolent. We can hear the testimony of the past. The dead can speak and walk amongst us again." Eventually, as if they were suddenly all friends with a common peaceful purpose, the Doctor, Bill, and the Testimony's leader then accompanied the captain back to 1914, to the crater, to die. We saw the troops from both sides commemorate Christmas by declaring a truce, singing Silent Night, and playing the famous game of football. The photography and violins told us this was Moffat's attempt to create his own Blackadder moment. But it was too belated and too token. He should have set the whole story in Ypres and not bothered with the chaotic adventures in the Testimony's Chamber of Death, or with Rusty on Belengard, an obscure location for Wovian geeks only ever mentioned before in Steven Moffat's first ever episode back in 2005. Letting go of the Doctor is so hard. It sounded like Moffat's confession to the audience. "Hello, you stupid old man," Clara greeted him. "You're back in my head," the Doctor gasped. "All my memories." Again, Moffat wanted to have his cake and eat it, make it soppy as well as tragic. Having milked the reunion to be as sentimental as possible, the Doctor himself declared the emotion was bogus. "Can't I ever have peace? Can't I rest?" Capaldi demanded to Clara and Nardole. "You're not really here." Back in the TARDIS, even as his regeneration started, the Doctor raged against his fate, making a stirring speech to his successor. "Never be cruel, never be cowardly, and never ever eat pears," he blazed. "Hate is always foolish, and love is always wise." Peter Capaldi's final words before sparks blasted out of his head and outstretched hands were, "Love hard, run fast, be kind. Doctor, I let you go." When she appeared, Jodie Whittaker's historic debut was more accident-prone than powerful, losing control of the TARDIS, falling out of the iconic time machine, and watching it sail away into space as she plummeted through the air towards Earth. As the rest of the episode had, the finale showed Capaldi at his finest, one of the most lovable, lively, crafty Doctors ever. The downside of his farewell was it served as a reminder that Capaldi and even Bradley were most viewers' idea of what the Doctor should be like.